The fall musical is Catch Me If You Can, which has a very popular movie, which it is based off of.
It's based off of the life of Frank Jr., the son of Frank Sr. in the 1960s era, and there's a lot of action, comedy, a lot of that.
As a character, Frank Jr. is really interesting because Frank Jr. himself is an actor, so as you go through the script, you find in the beginning he's Frank Jr., who's kind of a kid at the time, and then he grows up a little and becomes a little more mature. But his character arc also leads into these people that he's acting as. So he's Frank Jr., he's Frank Jr., kind of his mature version. He's also a schoolboy and a substitute teacher and a news reporter. He's, all these things, so it's so interesting to go through and figure out what all he is and how he kind of reacts to all that.
My role is very different from anything I've ever played before because I am a lot more sophisticated. Like, my character is much more sophisticated and more rounded out, like, of a character, and she knows what she's doing, and she's very neat, and she even has a French accent, so that's fun to work with. So I like it because it's something new to me that I get to experiment with and work with and develop for myself.
What I like about my character is that he's very different from the previous characters I've played before, but he's very smooth, a little bit sophisticated, and not just a ladies' man, but a people's person. He knows how to trick people, he knows how to get people to do what he wants and say what he wants. He's a con artist, just like his son after him, and he really just likes to show off that he's suave, and his presence in any room is, oh, I need to talk to this guy.
We do a selection process with the students. We come together with a big list of things that interest them and excite them, and then I throw a few things in there that they might not have heard of. And then we weed it out, shorten it to the scripts that we're going to read, and then we have a discussion on what fits our troupe best in the moment. And what came out of the conversation last May was they really wanted to do Catch Me If You Can.
The show is November 12th, 13th, and 14th at 7:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m., and 2 p.m.
Yeah, it'll be at the high school in the auditorium.
This is a big show. It is a moving parts kind of spectacle show, and because it's a show that I really have a close relationship with because I've directed it before, I wanted to be able to get back into the orchestra directing position as well while I'm still the artistic director. So trying to think of all of the elements of the pieces of this show that I knew really well, and then putting into place the artistic directing portion of it, and understanding that I have to move back into the orchestra and not really be in control of all of those things once the show kind of launches, has been a really big challenge for me personally. For the students, it's getting back to theater life after COVID. Not that we're completely through all of that, but we're kind of operating on a more normal basis right now, and I've got a cast full of kids who haven't seen normal theater since Hunchback of Notre Dame, which we did 2 years ago. So getting that rehearsal schedule under their belts again, and then understanding hey, I'm going to be kind of standing next to other people, and that in and of itself, just kind of getting back to normal, has been a big challenge for this show.
The hardest thing about playing Frank Sr. is that I have to be very grizzled. I'm roughly 61, 62, and I need to be both smooth, but also when I teach my son a couple lessons throughout the show, I need to be very hard on my delivery, and especially with a couple scenes, I need to be not so much as mean and rude, I just need to be gruff and very grounded and low with my character and voice. And I also need to not be so suave that everyone loves me, because there are certain points in the show that I need to be where the audience should be like, that shouldn't be a thing that he should sing. I don't like him for this, instead of very lovable and very suave throughout the whole show.
Definitely the accent. Still don't have it down yet. All I know is z and dinner, but it's difficult to work around, but getting in there. And it's difficult being able to see in the perspective of someone that is much, much older than myself. I'm 16, my character is like 40. So it's different being in that mindset and perspective, but it's good to work towards.
Who he is so broad, so it's kind of worthwhile as an actor to consider that as Frank Jr., the actor, he moves differently as a substitute teacher and as this kind of school kid. So as he moves through these roles, kind of the physicality of taking Frank Jr., who moves like Frank Jr., to Frank Jr., who moves like someone else entirely, it shifts all the time, and that's the challenge.
I've enjoyed going just through the role in general and seeing things from that perspective, like I said earlier, of like, okay, I have to treat my friend like he is my son. It's a little different, but it's fun to look at new ways because it also puts me in real life perspective how I have to look at things in other ways as well. And she's also a very caring person, so it's like, oh, this is what caring is supposed to be like. And it reminds me, since my character is a general good person, it reminds me what I should be as a good person.
It is always cool to watch people grow. That's my favorite part of the process. That's my favorite part of theater, is that even in kind of a principal role, you can watch the ensemble grow even a day at a time. They get better. And then you can look at yourself, you know? Even at the beginning of this process, I'm gonna go vocal on you for a second. My range was almost a step and a half lower, which doesn't mean a lot to some people, but that's really a big accomplishment for me. It's cool to just see the progress that the show makes.
I just like the character development because Frank Sr. goes through a great many things in the show, as most of the audience will know, and it's fun to bring all those aspects to life. As being only 16, I have not gone through a divorce, so it's fun to figure out the exact character intentions and the feelings I would feel throughout that, and knowing that eventually things between me and my son will not be as I wanted them to be. And it's just finding all the little nuances and throwing a 60s spin on it while still having my own person bring something new to this character that's been immortalized on television.
Technically, the show is interesting, but I actually got into technical theater quite a while ago, and it started with Mr. Antit, the old drama director, saying, "Come to set construction when you can, leave when you must." It's a classic thing. I still say it sometimes. But it really is just interesting. I think it's fun. I like the people who work here. But more than that, I enjoy about technical theater the layers that it has. So I am a scenic designer, and that means everything you will see, hopefully, is something that I thought up in my head and then put it on paper. I'm also a scenic builder. So that means everything that I designed and put on paper, I also cut 2x4s and made it, and now it's on stage. And as a technical director, I oversee kind of how all of the other technical aspects, lighting and sound and run crew and painting, and how all of that interacts with the set.
Well, my first year of high school, I ran follow spot for Oklahoma. And I enjoyed doing that, and so I kept signing up for lighting crew for the next performance and for the next years. And gradually I became more involved with the design process.
I got into it by helping out with technical stuff when I was a freshman, helping out building set stuff, and then I just asked to help out some more. They needed someone to help with props, so I became head for the previous musical, and then I stayed the head going through.
I got involved through some friends. I also just didn't really act as much when I was a freshman and a sophomore, so I was more behind the stage, and I liked it a lot more just because I like to stay organized, and that's one thing this has to have.
My sophomore year for Hunchback, I was on the costume crew, just on the crew, and I got a really big interest in it when we we sewed all the robes, the brown and gray robes. So I knew it was something I wanted to do when the chance for crew heads popped up again. So that's how I got interested in costuming, and I've loved it ever since. So
I got interested my freshman year when I guess I was on the costume crew as well, and I really didn't know what I was getting into, and then once I fully understood exactly what I was doing, I really started to enjoy all the challenging but rewarding opportunities that it has.
It was actually first offered my sophomore year, and no one else has done it. I'm actually the first one who's done it, and I was interested in it because I'm not very interested in being on stage, but I do like helping behind the scenes, and dramaturgy is essentially research. So I thought that would be fitting for me.
I like to challenge myself, and I knew that as a designer. So I actually designed the set to be difficult. And good news, I accomplished that. It is a difficult set. That really is the challenge. I used lots of circles. I used lots of descending circles, circular stairs. And also we're hoping to use a little bit more fly system work than maybe if you saw Children of Eden. And we're also hoping to incorporate a couple new, I think, lighting effects.
For this production, for one thing, it's the first time that I've ever fully been the crew head, so it's definitely a learning process for me. But specific to this show, it's a very fast-paced production. So there are a lot of things that happen in rapid succession.
Being the first has definitely been challenging. This year, I at least have more organization set up. I am a senior, so I'm also training someone to be a dramaturg next year. And I'm hoping to have a kind of formula worked out for them for each production.
I think probably we have a lot of moving parts in this show, so just keeping everything organized and where it should be at all times.
There's a lot of little hand props to get done and get things sort of to the time zone that we're looking for, and just finding everything we need without having to really build all new stuff and making it all just look 1960s-esque.
as the co-heads, I think one thing we struggle with is just if one of us talks to the director, making sure both people know about it, or I think that's the overarching problem or difficulty. But the show itself, 1960s, pilots and stewardess, nurses, just finding the resources for the show, for a show like this.
Yeah, it definitely includes a lot of 1960s clothes, and we did have a few family members and friends reach out that had some, but it was not a lot of people did. So then we rely on finding some, which can be a lot harder because that's kind of a time period when lots of styles and everything was changing. So it's just hard to make sure we're getting everything at least right, or attempting to.
For the show, I am playing the drums for the ensemble pit, and for the show, we're up there on stage the whole show, which is different, and it's pretty interesting. But yeah, so basically we just accompany the music, and we play the music for the actors. And it's very interesting because we're going from having pit for this many years to not, and having all these new people being used to there being backtracks that you have to stick with, to now having more flexibility with the pit, which I think is pretty nice, and it's pretty fun to play for it. So for our last couple shows, we weren't able to have a pit orchestra for the musicals, so we had to follow these specific set tracks. So a pit is able to interpret what someone's singing, so if they hold on to a high note for a certain amount of time, longer or shorter, they have the flexibility to do that. It makes it easier for the actors, but it adds a whole new aspect to it, and it probably sounds better.
I think the most fun part of it for the prop side is we have a lot of props that fit this era, and just going through and just finding stuff that's hey, this could work, and then we put this to the side. Instead of just looking for specific things, we get to have more exploration, more creativity with it.
I'd probably have to say working with props, just because there's a lot of things that we have on stage at all times, and just making a scene out of it would probably be my favorite thing.
This year I've been making presentations to present to the cast about different aspects of our show. The first one was about just generally what was the 1960s. The second one was about real life Frank Jr., since our show is based on a real person. And the last one was what it was like to be a teenager in the 1960s.
When I design sets, I design them based on concept. So I will decide I want it to look like this. And the most fun part that I have is almost always trying to figure out how to convert that to what it looks like on the stage. Because some of the random math equations that I end up using is just so odd. It gives me nostalgia to my geometry years.
I really enjoy doing the lighting design aspect of it, but I also enjoy the technical aspect just because I enjoy working with computers and have had experience with that in the past.
I think the most fun I've had is all the ideas that one of us comes up with and just seeing them come to life, because, you know, stewardess, it's super hard to find 10 stewardess skirts for all of us to match. So we ended up actually sewing them ourselves, which was a lot of fun. But just to see all of our ideas come to life. So I'm really excited for next week when we actually get to put the costumes on stage.
Yeah, I agree. It was hard to find those stewardess skirts, but after we cut for hours and sewed, it's really nice to see them, zippers and everything all done and on people. It's really rewarding to see all that hard work pay off, and to see the costumes that it took a long time to find able to work for the characters we picked them out for.
Theater, musical theater in particular, has been just kind of a center point of my life, and so it's hard to put my thumb on exactly what it is, but I love the rehearsal process. I love the build process. I love finding the challenges, meeting those challenges, and exceeding my expectations, the expectations of the students I'm working with. And so this show provides so many of those that it's really hard to say, oh, it was this particular thing. It's just the great opportunity to see we're right at that point where everything's starting to come together right now.
There's a place for everybody. Theater highlight number 2. Really, you couldn't walk in with a set of completely different skills and not have a place. Run Crew is always looking for people, and that's just the job. You move things on and off stage, and if you want to learn something new, I learn new things all the time. We just started drilling into the concrete back here. I started doing fly systems last year. There's more, regardless of what you do.
I'd probably say just go for it, because I don't think a lot of people know what goes on backstage, and it's just always an experience that you probably should have if you want to get into theater.
And I think it's just a fun experience to have. Even if you don't want to get into theater, you can make a lot of friends just being backstage and all that. And being the head of a crew can be a little stressful, but just being part of a crew isn't that much stress, because you get to go in there, you get to help out where you can, and then at the end of the day, you could be part of this really fun musical and just meet a lot of cool people.
I would just say it helps to have kind of a background, basic knowledge of technology, especially programming, but it's still pretty basic. Having a good eye for color helps. Having watched musicals in the past also helps. So it can be fun to get to design that kind of thing and see it on stage.
Just try it. It's really up to you how you do it. You don't have to be in the building as much, but you definitely have to be reliable and responsible and timely. So if those are your strong suits, then I think you would be a good dramaturg.
Try it, just try it. You don't know if you're gonna like it unless you try it. I was a sewer as a young adult, and I didn't think I would like costume crew as much, because it's not as much hands-on sewing as much as it is pulling or coming up with ideas. So just try it, because I'm sure you'll find some way of liking it if you don't enjoy a particular part of it.
Yeah, I think that the costume crew, even if you can't sew, you're so needed. it's such a good like social atmosphere. Everyone works together. Like, and when we were making the skirts, some people did cutting, some people did sewing, ironing. I mean, there's a spot for everyone. Whether you think you can't do it, I mean, you can do it. I mean, there's nothing too hard.
Yeah.
And it's always a fun time.
Yeah, lots of memories. So.
Yeah.
I've been involved ever since I was in 4th grade. I knew I liked to sing, I liked to cantor at church, so I thought, let's do a play, because I like playing pretend at recess, and it stuck with me ever since because I enjoyed it and other people enjoyed me, and every time a show is performed, it's a brand new experience and a brand new setting and perspective and character, no matter how small the character may be. Like, it's a whole new role. So that's why I've always enjoyed it, and that's why I've always stuck with it.
My brother was a really big theater person. My dad was a pretty big theater person. My grandpa is a really big theater person. Some of them still are. My brother's pursuing a degree in music education, you know? So I felt obligated to. I went out for it, you know, kind of half-heartedly. And kind of as I grew as a person, I decided that it wasn't something I wanted to do out of obligation. I just liked doing it. And that's really the difference between the freshmen who come in and the seniors that walk out is, you know, you grow to love it, and that kind of shows in what you can bring to a stage.
I joined drama into my sophomore year. Many people think that I've been doing this for my whole, a lot, but I really have just started in high school. And the thing that drew me in was the community aspect of just our whole department, not just drama, but band, choir, everything that attaches to that. We're all just one big family. A lot of it is when you have a problem, there's always someone to talk to in the drama department. And our director is really kind and allows us to sit down with her and really have a very thoughtful discussion about stuff that we're doing for the show or just personally. And a lot of it is just being able to have a new spin on a certain character or do something I wouldn't normally do. Like, I am not a dancer. I don't dance, but I have to do a couple of dances for the show, and a lot of that is just something I would never have done, and it's really fun, and I just get to have just a lot of fun on stage.
Again, it's a spectacle show, so there's a lot of fast-moving pieces. It's a big band jazz score, so everybody's going to love the music. There's a lot of dancing in it. The Frank Abagnale story is completely unbelievable to us because of all the things that have changed since his, law-breaking tryst across the country happened back in the 60s. So many things were put in place. It's so hard for us to believe that this could have happened, but we're watching that unbelievable story in a really showy format. So watching this kid get away with all of these things it's fun. It's a really fun story, but it's also kind of, sad to just watch this poor kid kind of be lonely. So it's got everything in it. And again, why would you not want to come out and support these students' really, really adventurous pursuits for excellence and show them, that their work is worthwhile?
You're going to want to go to the website spencerhsdrama.wixsite.com/mysite. And that again is spencerhsdrama.wixsite.com/mysite.
And you'll be able to find that in any of our social media pages. That way you don't have to memorize the link.
Or once we have posters up, there'll be a barcode where you can scan it and it'll take you directly to our website. Or if you get handed a business card from one of our cast or crew members.
It's one heck of a show. I mean, the show itself is a show. It's supposed to be that way. It's the big band style. It's exciting. It's a little uplifting. It's funny. But most of all, I think it would be to come out and support some of these people who have dedicated so many hours to this process. And it shows. It is such a cool place to be, and it should be a cool show to see.
It's a fun show. In the past, the theater It was Fiddler on the Roof, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Children of Eden. They've all been very serious, but this one is very, very live or colorful, quoted from the show. It's very exciting, especially in each character. They're like, you can see everything that's going on in them, and the character development through everyone in the cast has really gotten better. Like, you can see how everyone has just become a really great actor and actress. And there's lots of fun dances, which is something we were missing in Children of Eden. There wasn't as much dancing, but there's a lot of dancing in this, which I like to watch. So it's very exciting.
I think people should come down and watch because they'll be sitting in the stands and they'll just get sucked into the action of the show. You are immediately thrown into a situation that is almost like any other normal day, but that quickly goes awry, and it just draws your attention and just has your eyes glued to each and every character, every word they say and every word they sing. The show is very fast-paced, so you have to pay a lot of attention and to get the little things that happen here or there. And there's also a lot of funny remarks that a lot of the characters say to each other within the show, and you don't want to miss a single one. And every actor that says one of those lines makes it so much more funny than just reading it on a piece of paper out loud to a couple, 20 people.
So our show opens November 12th. We play the 12th, 13th, and 14th. Friday and Saturday shows are at 7:30, and the Sunday matinee is at 2 o'clock. Tickets go on sale on Monday, November 1st, on our ticketing site. So we do all online tickets now. They're available. There's a link on our posters and stuff like that. You can also check out our website at our SHS Theater Department, available through Facebook and all of our social media as well. This show is sponsored through our Fine Arts Boosters. The Spencer Fine Arts Boosters are always supporting all of the things that we need their help with, and so we're really excited that all the people that donate to FAB and support FAB have allowed us to have them as our sponsor for this show, and we couldn't be more thankful for that. Probably need to recognize some of the other adults involved. So I'm the artistic director, but our music director is Brant Roskins, former SHS theater participant. He's an alum that was available for the music direction. Kurt Schwark is the leader of our orchestra, and Jennifer Hansel, along with student choreographer Tasia Newcomer. So Jennifer's an alum as well. So it's been really nice to bring back some people that I have worked with as students now to stand kind of side by side and to direct with them. I think that's it. I'm sure I forgot somebody.